Good evening. I would like to call this meeting in the Municipal Council to order at 7 p.m. Please join me for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get into the regular business of the meeting, I will recognize Councilor Foa to read a reconsideration on a vote from June 3rd, 2025.
Thank you, President Delicio. I move to reconsider the vote of June 3rd, 2025 regarding the proposed time change to 6:30 p.m. from 7 p.m. for city or municipal council meetings.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
This is something which I believe should be decided by the whole council, and we are all present this evening. We were not last time.
Okay. So this motion is to reconsider that piece of business. We will actually do a roll call vote on this, please.
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
No.
Ms. Reynolds?
No.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
No.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Madam Clerk.
7 yeas, 3 nays. Oh, President Delicio.
No.
I never forget you.
That's all right. No.
Did this time. So 7 yeas, 4 nays.
Motion fails. We'll now go into a reading of the actual reconsideration, for which we will recognize Councilor Foa.
Ms. Foa?
Thank you. I move to reconsider the following vote.
Point of order? Did that fail?
No, it passed. The reconsideration passed. I think I said fail. I
Thank you.
apologize.
Thank you.
I move to reconsider the following vote that was taken on June 3rd, 2025. It is a proposed amendment to Council Rules and Procedures, Section 3-1.2, as follows. It would revise Section 3-1.2 of the first sentence to read, regular meetings shall be held in the Attleboro City Hall Municipal Council Chambers, 77 Park Street, Attleboro, commencing at 6:30 p.m. And also it would revise the first sentence of Section 1-9.2 of the revised ordinances to read that regular meetings shall be held in this Attleboro City Hall Municipal Council Chambers, 77 Park Street, Attleboro, commencing at 6:30 p.m., unless the time and/or place is changed to any other public building suitable, including broadcasting by the media, for conducting city business by a vote of the municipal council or by the council president, and notice of such change is given as required by the open meetings law.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Do you have any additional comments to add to this, Councilor Foa?
I do.
Relating just to, without rehashing the argument, just to the reconsideration.
I have a further argument. I did not have the information which I hope you have all.
Just a point of order, doesn't the reconsideration have to be done so by the party that, or the side that was victorious on the vote?
That was for the filing where it was both Councilor Foa and Councilor Holmes. There was one from each side.
Okay.
Thank you.
In addition to the arguments that I made last time against this motion, I have looked at the commuting schedule from Boston to Attleboro, and taking into consideration that we have lots of people in Attleboro who don't work in Attleboro, who now work in offices outside the home and have to commute into the city. The commuting schedule is such that it is extremely difficult to put in a full day's work and be here at 6:30. The train that if you leave your office at 5 o'clock and can make South Street Station by 5:37, that train gets you here at 6:28. That doesn't give anybody time to breathe, to consider, to go home, to change, to get your papers, to do anything. There is a train that arrives here at 5:34, but that leaves South Street Station at 4:52. So it is extremely difficult for commuters from the Boston area to get here for a 6:30 city council meeting. I also didn't discuss commuting the other way, or commuting by car on I-95, whether you're coming from the north or the south. It takes forever. And I believe both for people who wish to speak, but also in consideration of counselors who have jobs that require them to work a full day's work. 7 o'clock is the reasonable time for us to meet. 6:30 is unreasonable in my judgment.
Thank you. So again, this is for the reconsideration. We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
No.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
I'm sorry, I need to just make sure that I know what I'm voting on. I'm voting to change this to 6:30 after all the conversation.
A no vote will keep it at 6:30. A yes vote will put it to 7.
Other way around? 'Cause it's
If we're voting in, so let me see.
That's right.
That's what I
a no
understood.
vote.
Yes, this is for the reconsideration. So the move is to reconsider. So a yes vote will reconsider the vote to move it to 7. A no vote keeps it at 6:30. Correct, Madam?
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, I thought that we were already at 7. I'm just confused.
We changed it to 6:30 already.
It was, the vote changed it to 6:30 on the 3rd.
All
The
right.
reconsideration is for it to not be 6:30 and go to 7. So a yes vote will be for the reconsideration.
Yeah.
A yes vote is to make it at 7. A no vote is to keep it at 6:30.
Okay.
So Mr. Tavares is, okay, Mr. Tavares, we'll start this over. Roll call, beginning with Councilor Tavares. So
Mr.
Councilor Sawyer, thank you for raising that.
Mr. Tavares?
No.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
No.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
No.
Mr. Lavoy?
No.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
No.
Six yeas, 5 nays.
That motion fails.
Excuse me?
The meetings will stay at 6:30. We'll start at 6:30.
Wait, I'm confused now.
No.
Correct?
No.
No.
Yes is next.
Six-
So there's
Six
6
yeas.
yeas, 5 nays. Okay. So, correct, so the motion passes. I apologize.
very confused.
This was a little confusing, just given the nature of it. Okay, so the motion passes, the reconsideration passes. Okay, thank you. Gary, would you like to bring the planning board in for the joint hearing? Hey, things happen, you know, this isn't an everyday sort of situation. So, all right, Madam Clerk, would you please read a notice of the first and only public hearing this evening?
June 17, 2025. Joint public hearing with the planning board regarding the proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance, specifically Section 17-3.5, Table of Accessory Use Regulations, Section 17-4.5.2, Accessory Dwelling Units, General Standards, and Section 17-11.2, Definitions of the zoning ordinance relative to detached accessory dwelling units. The amendment is available at the Planning Office and Municipal Council Office at 77 Park Street. Also, a request can be made by email to the council at cityofattleboro.us.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor?
Good evening, Council President, members of the Municipal Council, Planning Board Chairwoman, and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Gary Eurasian, and I am here tonight to speak in favor of the proposed amendments. Just a very brief history, if the council recalls and the planning board recalls, in fall of 2023, the zoning ordinance was amended to allow two forms of by right attached dwelling units, whether or not the dwelling unit was wholly within the existing dwelling or in addition to the house. Fast forward to 2024, Governor Healy signed into law the amendments to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 3, the Affordable Housing Act, that allowed by right detached dwelling units. The proposal before the Municipal Council and the Planning Board were prepared by the board and staff, and it is modeled after the state law. In my humble opinion, I think it's very economically worded in that the amendment is pretty much straightforward with very limited restrictions. And before I get into the forensics of the ordinance, let me also add that the ordinance that's before you right now was read and reviewed with feedback from the building commissioner, who's here tonight, the city solicitor, the attorney general's office, even though it's not required, and of course the mayor. Having said that, I know you all have the ordinance in front of you. Rather than walking you through all the optics of each one, I thought I would just provide the highlights, and if you want to dive into anything specific, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So first of all, the two by right forms of attached ADUs are still on the books, are proposed, so you could still do the attached versions, whether within the superstructure or an addition. It will now allow, the new ordinance would now allow detached accessory dwelling units. We're trying to do it without my glasses, but it's impossible. So it will now allow detached ADUs in any zoning district that allows a one-family dwelling. The ADU, whether attached or detached, is allowed by right. The proposed ordinance also allows an additional one, but by special permit. And you'll note in subsection 17-3.5 Table of Accessory Use Regulations, there's a footnote and it talks to that effect. We've maintained the same language with respect to the gross floor area, not less than 300 square feet, but not more than 900 square feet, provided that the ADU, whether or not it's 50% less than the existing single-family home, whichever is less. So if you have a, say, a 1,500 square foot house, you can go up to 50%, so that caps the ADU off at 750 square feet. If you happen to have a 5,000 square foot McMansion, you're limited to 900 square feet. The only language we changed in that section is, it was, or is, I should say, currently 40% of the gross square footage. In order to align our ordinance with the state law, the planning board and staff recommends to increase that to 50%. The only other restriction I could call out to you right now is that if the ADU is located more than 1/2 mile from a transit station or a public bus stop, the premises has to provide for one off-street parking space. The balance of it, again, it goes on for 4 pages, but we were very systematic on identifying all of the amendments. It seems a little daunting, but it's not. The balance of the amendments are really housekeeping amendments and a number of proposed definitions to be included in section 17-11 definitions. Again, I think it's pretty straightforward. It aligns us with the state. It allows for continued attached ADUs by right and detached ADUs by right.
Do we have any questions for the city planner? All set, Gary.
All right,
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you, folks.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak against? Anyone speak neither for nor against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Chair Whitehead, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open? No. Okay, and Council Sawyer, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
No, you're not.
Okay, I declare that public hearing closed.
Thank
On to your
you.
meeting. Thank you all, so it's good to see you. I would entertain a motion to enter into committee of the whole.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are now operating in committee of the whole. If anyone has anything they'd like to bring before the council.
Good evening, everybody. I'm actually wearing two hats tonight. My name is Jack Lank. I live at 18 Lindsay Farm Lane here in Attleboro, but I also serve as the president of the United Regional Chamber of Commerce. I have a couple of things to bring up, and I know I have some limited time. One of the things that we've tried to do for many, many years is to attract businesses to downtown. Well, we have, I've heard several phone calls, and they've asked me to come up and speak. It seems that we have some new parking enforcement officers in downtown that get paid a commission for each ticket that they write. So it's unfair to a lot of the businesses, and one I'm going to bring up is the ladies' hair salon downtown. When you ladies, no, I'm not trying to be wise guy, but when you go in for a cut, perm, color, whatever, that takes more than 2 hours. Well, you go and you spend $175, $200 to get that done, and then you come out and find a ticket on your car, they find another hair salon to go to. That's not a way we're going to attract business downtown. One of the small ways we're not going to. Okay, the other one, it's going to come up a little bit later on, I guess, on this, give these guys another tax break for that property. Well, that parking lot that they bought, they should be using that for the tenants that are going to be in that building. You're going to build 45 units with only 26 parking spaces. Well, where are the rest of them going to park? You can't tell me that all of them are going to be on the train and go into Boston. So I hope that that does not pass. And another thing we've talked about a couple of times is people are afraid to come up here to this podium. They're afraid to talk to this city. And I'm going to give you two examples, okay? We were at the flood mitigation meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I hope that you can reevaluate this grant, because they talked about just looking at Attleboro, the southern part of the 10-mile river. And when the mayor raised her hand and says, why can't we look at this a little bit more regionally? Because the problem is coming from upriver. Oh, we'll talk to them after we're done. Next. To me, that was disrespectful. Two other business owners asked questions. Again, they were blown off. I raised a hand and I said, listen, I've been in several meetings with North Attleboro, with Senator Feeney, their economic development director, the director of GATRA, and their state rep, to find ways to make this to work. All I got was a smart mouth comment from one of the city employees that was at this meeting. Oh, we met with them last year. I didn't see you at any of the meetings. So you wonder why people don't want to come and speak here. The other example is Easton Supply. He's come to this city and made some complaints numerous times. I challenge all of you to go over and look in front of Easton Supply. The brand new sidewalks from the library stop in front of his building, start again right after his driveway in front of Speedy Oil, and come into downtown.
1 minute, Jack. 1 minute left.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Well, basically that's it. You know, I hope that you do not pass this tax break. I don't know about you, but as a citizen, to hear what they have to say, how do you feel like being held a hostage? Because that's what they did the first time, and I believe that's what they're trying to do the second time. So please, as a citizen, because that tax break is going to reflect on the rest of the people in Attleboro, it's not our fault that they didn't figure out how to build their building correctly, okay? So I hope that you decide not to give them that second tax break. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the speaker? Mr. Angelo.
Thank you, President Delacio. Hey, Jack, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it. On that flood mitigation, was that on a Saturday?
Yes.
All right, so that was in front of the council. So who was running that, if you don't mind me asking?
I believe it was the consultants. But, you know, the way that they spoke, I know there was another councilor who was there at the same time, okay? To me, when the CEO of the company asks you a question, you don't go, yeah, we'll talk to them later. Next. That was very disrespectful. And I don't know who these people are. I don't really care who these people are. But they're getting paid a crap load of money to come and do this. Not fair.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have anyone else who would wish to address the committee? Please make your way to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Julie Feeney. I'm a 4-year resident of Attleboro. My family is new here. I am a resident of Dewey Avenue, which you may be familiar with in terms of the water crisis that has gone on in our neighborhood. And I call it a crisis because it has severely impacted my household as well as all of the residents in our neighborhood. I recently just had my second daughter. She's 4 months old, and throughout my entire pregnancy, I had an abundance amount of black manganese in my water. When I tell you an abundance amount, you could pick it up and sprinkle it. I got to a point where I had reached an ending of all of this and demanded that I have support from our water department, and I asked for someone to report to my house, and that person was Matt Crotty. Having Matt come into my household, he was made aware of the conditions of our water, which I will inform you that I've had to replace my washing machine to wash my clothes because the amount of buildup in my pipes has impacted our washing machine. I replaced our appliances. I've also had to take my children to my mother-in-law's to bathe them. I would love to invite you all over for coffee or tea, but I don't supply coffee or tea from my water. I import it from Poland Springs. All of this aside, I've never complained. I've never brought it to social media. I've never even brought it to the media's attention when they knocked on my door asking for an interview. I said, I do not want this soapbox. Instead, I'm choosing to stand here and give you my speech from my perspective. But I'm also here in representation of my neighborhood. I would first like to say thank you because I know that in the development of all of this, you had approved cutting open our street and extracting the water pipe, and I sincerely thank you for that. That was a very profound moment that allowed us to see what is going on in our pipes. The great news is that we had expected a buildup of residue or manganese in that pipe, and that pipe was clear. I have pictures on my phone, and I apologize, it's dead. But what we found in that moment is that this manganese and all of it coming from, and all of the volume of it is coming from the source. I don't know much about water. I pay for it, and I happily pay for it. I'm a very good citizen in terms of giving back to my community, but I have the expectation of having clean water so I can bathe my babies, so that I can cook, and so that I can live a healthy, natural lifestyle at home, as all of you do. The last note that I'm going to make on this from a personal level is that my husband has a medical condition now where he has to take medicine every day because when he gets out of the shower, he is consumed with hives and itching. And that is something that has been a recent development within the last year. So while we have gotten to a point where there's been improvement in our water, there is less manganese, there's a lot of things happening, and I just want to express my sincere appreciation, but I do think that we have a long way to go. And another thing that I want to bring up, and I am here again representing my neighborhood, is the efforts and the response and the education that Matt Crotty has given my entire neighborhood. He has been boots on the ground, he has been the face of all of you and the water department, and he has worked tirelessly to make sure that my babies have clean water to bathe in. He checks in with me routinely, he checks in with my neighbors, and he is somebody that is very involved. On behalf of my neighborhood, we did draft a letter that I would like to leave with you today, and if it's okay, may I read it?
You only have about 10 seconds left. We have a 4-minute limit, but you can leave that with Virginia, our
Okay.
administrative assistant, and she'll get it out to all of us.
Okay. I just want to say thank you, but I also just want to make you aware that this is severely impacting all of us. And while it is at bay right now, it is circumstantial and it does come back. So I appreciate your ongoing efforts to maintain clean water in our city.
Thank you very much for coming
Thank
in. Any questions? No? Okay. No? All set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who wishes to address the council?
My name is Richard Conti. I live at 100 Berwick Road in Attleboro, and I'm here to speak against the tax incentive exemption. I voted against it when I was sitting on the city council, and if you read the Sun Chronicle, Rihanna Wen did a great article on, I think, Saturday, but there's only so much news hole. She couldn't get to the end of the story. So I'm here tonight to try to explain that to you. You need money. Your capital improvements plan is ridiculous. Your senior center is coming up. Your public safety complex is coming up. You're getting 36.3% of your money next year from the state as state aid, and the federal government's cutting state aid. Guess what's going to happen? The state aid to the Attleboro is going to get cut. She can't help it. It's not there. You need money. You can't be giving it away. So this tax incentive exemption, I suggest that you form a policy in the council for tax increment exemptions, whereby you don't give away more than 50% in taxes, because you need the cash flow. And then secondly, I recommend that you recapture all of the tax dollars at the sale of the building. So when the person who's applying for the tax exemption sells the building, the money comes back to Attleboro. Interest-free is fine if you want to make it interest-free, but you need that money. You can't give it away. So in the development they're just finishing now, I think we gave them 1.5 million. 1.5 million is enough to run the zoo for almost 3 months. That's a lot of money. Actually, it's more than that. So here's the way it would work, is that you send out tax bills, actual tax bills in January, and you send out preliminary tax bills in June. So the developer says, well, we're going to start construction, we need to have a tax exemption. We want 50% off of our January bill. That's fine. The amount of money that gets exempted by the assessor on that tax bill goes to the Registry of Deeds and gets filed as a municipal lien that runs with the property. And then when the developers recapture their investment, and they all do, and a perfect example is Renaissance North. Renaissance North was built for $12 million. Once it was up and running and it was 10 years old, he sold it for $25 million. If we had a tax incentive exemption, we could have got at least those dollars back to us when that building was sold. So that needs to be in a policy set by the council.
1 minute left, Mr. Conti.
Am I out of 4 minutes?
1 minute.
1 minute. Well, I can't forget to thank you for donating to the fireworks fund. The mayor did as well, and I really appreciate that for those of you who donated. But back to this. What I would suggest is that you put this on hold a little bit until you get to do the homework, because some of you need to follow up on what I've said. I have talked to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, Office of Economic and Community Development. Mary says, Richard, you need to talk to Joe. Joe says, Richard, the state's not going to tell Attleboro how to set a tax increment policy. They can do anything they damn well please. Joe's retired, so I guess maybe that's his nice little exit comment.
10 seconds.
But the reality is you can set the policy, and you can save the tax dollars that I spend for your salary increase, for the union and teachers. You've got 1,500 employees.
Thank you, Mr. Conti.
4 minutes go by fast.
Yeah.
It does. Mr. Angelo, then Mr. Kovas.
Thank you, President Delicio. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Conti, and with all the respect that your experience of being on the council and stuff. So just so I can understand what you might have gone through, because I'm guessing you, before my time, you probably brought this out and were unsuccessful in getting this to happen.
Actually, when the developers came the first time, I was just so dead set against it, I didn't even think about recapturing the dollars when they eventually sold the building. It was mentioned, and they said, oh no, if that's the case, we don't want to do the deal. Well, guess what? It's either do the deal or don't do the deal. It's like Iran and Israel. You're going to do a deal or not. Yeah. So, if you have a policy, then it's really no issue. Every developer who comes into the city in the beginning already knows they're only getting at most 50%. And on that very first actual bill in January, they're going to get a lien put against the building. That lien will not impact their loan, the bank's opinion of the property, because the project is millions and millions of dollars, and the tax increment exemption is only a couple of $1 million. If it was a single-family home, it'd be a very different story. But it won't affect their ability to go and get financing.
Council Copus.
Hey, good to see you again. It's been a while. But quick question. My understanding is there's no precedent for putting a lien on a property for tie benefits. Are you aware of any precedent of that ever happening? Or, I mean, I don't think that's ever happened before. There's any precedent for any municipality doing that. Is that correct?
Councilor, I'll be the first. Attleboro will be the first.
Okay.
And there's nothing
that was my
wrong
question.
with
Thank
being the first.
Councilor Forward, then Vice President Dolan.
Do you know how your rebate or recovery proposal will affect the grant that Attleboro and the developers are expecting to get?
The grant should be transparent to the municipal lien, because the municipal lien runs with the property for the entire duration of time that they own the building.
Yes?
And it won't affect the financing either, because I was careful about that, because initially I was thinking we might get a little interest on our money as well, but that may be asking too much.
Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Mr. Conti. When you talk about the $1.5 million that we could use to run the zoo, so to be clear, we're not giving them money per se. They're getting a tax break. So that money isn't a check we're writing that we could use to fund the zoo. I just wanted to clarify that. So we're not actually handing over cash or writing a check.
Try to think of a future council after you've retired, years in the future, 20 years from now. The city council and the chief financial officer get a check because the building sells, and the check's for, I don't know, $1.2 million. Okay, 20 years from now, that $1.2 million is not what it is today. But it's a nice little addition to the general fund that certainly would pay someone's salary. So the concept here is that because the developer recaptures their profit at the sale of the property, why can't the city recapture its tax dollars that they forgave? Correct, they didn't collect it because they forgave them, but it's money that they should have had if they paid taxes like everybody else, like I do, like you do. So the idea is, at the recapture, get the money that should have been paid. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Rick, thank you very much.
I'm sorry you don't have a beard anymore, Mr. President.
Yeah, no, it took me about 8 months to shave what was there, so I'm like, we'll give it another go.
Thank you well.
You pull yours off nicely, though, sir. It's good to see you, Rick. Anyone else wish to bring business in front of the council, please approach the podium.
Good afternoon, councilors. My name's Christopher McDermott. I am the Economic Development Director with the city. I just want to step up for a moment. I saw the article that came out this past Saturday and heard some of the comments that were shared a moment ago, and just wanted to share a quick response to a few of them. I understand the concern regarding the potential of property being sold, but I want to point out a few things. First of all, the tie itself, the development can't move forward without it. Therefore, the additional revenues that are produced by it are completely unachievable without it. On top of that, the building itself is a fixed asset, so even if it were potentially sold after it were developed, we would still benefit from that additional tax revenue that's going to be coming in. The asset itself is not going to transfer to another city or town and then therefore escape us. On top of that, the tie or the H-chip tax credits that come following a tie approval, they've been budgeted for by the state. So the state's already backfilled what it anticipates is going to be the allocation for these tax credits. Thus, we're effectively attracting state funds to the site, to the downtown area. If we don't have an opportunity to pursue these in conjunction with the developer, they will be expended somewhere else. They'll go to another gateway city, a Lowell, a Worcester, or what have you. So I really view this as an opportunity not only to raise revenues for the city itself, but also to attract additional revenue and additional investment to the city via the state. Lastly, just regarding some of the concerns regarding protecting the city's interests when we're moving through these negotiations when it comes to a tie. First, you gotta leave a little bit of a float there so that we make sure that we can work with the developer and come to that balance that we need where the developer can move forward with the project. The city can still realize some additional benefit from it. And that's one of the reasons that the EDIB includes, beyond myself, the mayor, the planner, but also the assessor and the treasurer, who play a critical role in providing us input on a number of those concerns and setting what the base value and the additional value from these developments are. And last but not least, I just want to reiterate that the tie facilitates this additional investment, that without this additional support that we're able to provide and the additional support from the state, we continue to see, I believe it was a $35,000 annual revenue on the site over 15 years, excuse me, not even annual. And that after 15 years, the gentleman before me mentioned legacy, after 15 years, as the tie drops off, we then realize the full appreciated value of that revenue on that site from the real estate taxes. I was talking to Councilor Kobus before this. I believe you said it would grow to be about $99,000 a year, I think, in real estate taxes.
That's correct.
So this is a long-term investment of the city. It attracts not only private investment, it enables private investment, it also attracts state investment, and it develops an immediate positive impact for the real estate tax base. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Councilor Fuller.
Thank you. Can you please just repeat for me again what action the state has already taken?
Yeah.
Just say it again.
I can break that down a little bit more.
slowly.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little quick there.
That's okay.
So when they release, yeah, not at all. When they release the notice of funding availability for these tax credits, so they put out, I believe it's about $10 million in HDIP tax credits for people that can secure a tie and then move on to that next round. They backfill that, so they're not. The state's not losing revenue. They've set aside an allocation that covers that spread moving forward. Therefore, if, let's say, Attleboro is going for the $2.5 million, or I should say the developer in Attleboro is going for the $2.5 million, and they don't get it, it's not a situation where, well, the state no longer loses that tax revenue. No, the state's going to take that and invest it in another city elsewhere. So that's one of the ways that I really look at this as the state investing into our city through this program.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilor LaVoy.
Thank you, President Delicio. Could you touch on what we've received from the state for the existing structure at Briggs Crossing?
The existing structure at 2739 South Main Street, they still need to go through their final certification. So once they do that and they submit all their paperwork for that, they'll be given those tax breaks. Back then, the program was a little bit lower. It only capped out at $2 million. Almost said 2.0. So that's what they will be pursuing in regards to that project.
Okay. But how much will the city receive? The city will receive the $2 million, you're saying?
I'm saying the state would be investing, when I say in the city, I mean in the community, in this property. So they're directing funds to the property. The city itself. Oh, you mean for the additional real estate tax revenue from 2739 South Main Street, or just from the HDIP tax credit?
Just from the HDIP tax credit, yeah.
The HDIP tax credit would go towards that development and that investor. Usually what they do is they plow that back into their mortgage and their debt, so that brings that down, and that helps bring the cost of the project on an operating level to be more manageable.
Sorry. Do they have the ability to take that tax credit and put it towards this new project if we approve this today?
I mean, if they were to accrue that fund and they had another project they wanted to direct it towards, there's a possibility of that. If you look at their pro forma, though, they do show themselves investing that tax credit into this project in order to make sure that the project continues to work and remains affordable for them.
Additional questions? Mr. Angelo?
Thank you, President Delicio. I've heard discussion, concern is on parking and stuff. Is there any discussion with them obtaining parking at the MBTA lot that maybe you could touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Following our conversation, I think it was back on June 3rd, we reached out to the developer. We actually had a department heads meeting the next day, and this is something that I raised with them. Hey, I know what you guys are working on, but I think you might need to go to one-to-one. I understand the council's concern. They were completely amenable to that. So we started talking to them. They already had some residents at their current development that are looking at leasing some space over at the MBTA station, just paying the $90 monthly rate, whatever it is. I said, I think you guys are going to need something a little more formal than that. So I had a contact at MBTA. I had them pull together a letter that stated what their need was and what they were looking for. Shared that with the MBTA, and they're taking it from there. So they are working with the MBTA towards that solution. Absolutely. On top of that, I also just longer term, and this won't fix things tomorrow, but we are working on a feasibility study that's looking at 3 of the city's major downtown parking lots, or I should say structures, the library lot, the YMCA lot, and the Sanford Street Garage, trying to gauge which of them would be most suitable to additional parking decks. This is something that the mayor assigned to me early upon my arrival. I've been working with Gary on it as well. We worked on a couple of draft RFPs, polished them up a little bit, distributed them. I got 3 responses back. All 3, unfortunately, outstripped what we had currently available for funding. But recognizing that Community One Stop was right on the horizon, so I was able to pull together a grant application. We submitted that back actually on June 4th, so the day after the presentation, to the state, seeking an additional $100,000 to be matched by about $60K out of the parking fund to conduct that study and identify how we can best increase that parking capacity moving forward.
Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. So just to be clear, you said there is no HDIP without the tie.
That is correct, yep.
Correct.
Yep, by statute, you have to have a tie in order to move on to the next round.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, Chris, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who wishes to address the council? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to arise from Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We've now risen from Committee of the Whole. We'll go into a reading of the mayor's communication.
June 17th, 2025. Dear Municipal Council, for your information, I regret to inform you that we have received a resignation from Director of Public Health, Health Agent Dan Zarilla. Dan's last day of employment will be June 27th, 2025.
It's an FYI.
For your information, I am pleased to inform you that Health Officer Dr. Christopher Quinn has appointed Sheila O'Brien, RN, as the City of Attleboro's public health nurse.
Again, an FYI.
I am pleased to inform you that pursuant to Chapter 41, Section 1080 of Massachusetts General Laws, the City of Attleboro will soon be implementing employment contracts for Police Chief Kyle Hegney and Fire Chief Scott LaChance. Because of the unique nature and risks associated with the duties and responsibilities of these positions, many municipalities have already moved to employment contracts for police and fire chiefs. Also, please know that both positions remain in civil service, and the provisions of the Civil Service Law, Mass General Laws, Chapter 31, remain in full force and effect. Accordingly, I respectfully ask that Section 6-1.1, 15-1.1, 13-3.1, 13-4.1, and 13-6 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro be amended as follows. Strike Section 6.1.1 in its entirety and replace with the following. Section 6-1.1 Organization. There is hereby established within the municipal government of fire department headed by a fire chief. The mayor shall appoint the fire chief from those persons who have qualified under civil service eligible list of city in accordance with civil service laws, rules, and regulations. The fire chief shall have an employment contract agreed upon under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 1080. This ordinance shall take effect upon passage. Strike Section 15-1.1 in its entirety and replace with the following. Section 15-1.1 Organization. There is hereby established within the municipal government a police department, headed by a police chief. The mayor shall appoint the police chief from those persons who have qualified under the civil service eligible list of the city in accordance with civil service laws, rules, and regulations. The chief of police shall have an employment contract agreed upon under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 1080. This ordinance shall take effect upon passage. Section 13-3.1, amend by removing the positions of police chief and fire chief from the classification plan, said amendment to take effect upon passage. Section 13-4.1, amend by removing the positions of police chief and fire chief from the compensation plan, and amendment to take effect upon passage. Section 13-6, personnel rules and regulations, amend by adding the following language in bold to Article 1, purpose and application. The rules and regulations set forth herein shall apply to all full-time and part-time employees in grades 5 through 15 of the classification plan established under Section 13-3 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, hereinafter referred to as an employee, except elected officials, the police chief and fire chief, and employees of the school committee, and shall govern the hours of duty, compensation, and other conditions of employment of such employees. Part-time employees shall include only those employees who work a regularly scheduled work week of at least 20 hours or more. Additionally, to minimize any concerns about potential conflict between the contracts and existing city ordinance provisions, I respectfully request your honorable body call for a public hearing to be held on July 15th concerning those proposed ordinance changes.
Public Safety and Emergency Management and Council Holmes, would you like to call for a public hearing on July 15th?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
For your information, I regret to inform your honorable body we have received the resignation of Heather Rockwood from the Cultural Council effective June 30th, 2025. Please join me in thanking Ms. Rockwood for her service to the city.
It's an FYI.
For your information, I regret to inform your honorable body we have received the resignation of Terry McFarland from the Sustainability Commission effective July 18th, 2025. Please join me in thanking Ms. McFarland for her service to the city.
It's an FYI as well.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief Assessor Julie Hobson regarding the need for funds to pay an unexpected increase in subscriptions. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $500 from the Assessor's Staff Development account to the Assessor's subscription account, supporting documents provided. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2025 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this matter prior to June 30th, 2025.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from City Auditor Deborah Gould regarding public safety detail deficits. The city collector notified the city auditor that collection efforts related to unpaid police and fire details have been exhausted. The detail costs incurred by June 30th and unpaid by September 30th result in a reduction to the amount of free cash certification by the Department of Revenue. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body transfer $5,066.88 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer to the following accounts: $2,171.68 to citywide police details, $2,895 to the citywide fire details account. In order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2025 deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this matter prior to June 30th, 2025.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Building Inspector Bill McDonough concerning changes in the compensation of appointed inspectors. After meeting with Bill and Auditor Deb Gould to discuss this matter and associated changes to the Protective Inspection Service Fund, the proposed amendments below were prepared. Said amendments have been reviewed and approved as to form by Solicitor Mello, supporting documents provided. Accordingly, I respectfully ask your honorable body amend the revised ordinance as follows. Amend Section 3-4.1 by striking the entire section and replace with the following. 3-1.4, compensation of inspectors. A, in accord with practice of the Attleboro Building Department, the inspector of plumbing shall receive as compensation for services they perform up to 65% of the fees received for permits, said amount not to exceed $5,000 per permit. The inspector of gas shall receive a compensation for services they performed up to 65% of the fees received for permits and not to exceed $5,000 per permit. The inspector of wires shall receive as compensation for service they performed up to 65% of the fees received for permits, said amount not to exceed $5,000 per permit. B, the assistant inspector of wires, plumbing, and gas shall be paid $40 per inspection. Amend Section 3-7 by striking the last two paragraphs of the existing section as follows. 3-7 permits. application for the building permit, occupancy permits, gas piping, plumbing permits, electrical permits, sheet metal permits, and medical permits. Mechanical permits, not medical, shall all be filed in the office of the building department. All permits shall be approved by the appropriate inspectors and posted on the worksite in a conspicuous place prior to the start of activation of any work associated with such permits. Amend section 20-3.2 by striking the entire section and replace with the following. 20-3.2 revenues. The city auditor shall establish a protective inspection services fund number 2603 as a separate fund and credit to the fund 65% of the fees paid for plumbing and gas inspection permits. Said amount not to exceed $5,000 per permit and 65% of the fees paid for the electrical inspection permits, said amount not to exceed $5,000 per permit when needed to be performed by an outside contractor.
Finance Committee and Council Cobus, would you like to call for a public hearing on July 15th?
I would, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the need to pay a fiscal year '24 invoice to Seccont Gas and Repair in the amount of $2,073.69. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $2,073.69 from Citywide Reserve Fund for Transfer account to the fire prior year bills account, supporting documents provided in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2025 deadline. I hereby request your honorable body to consider this matter prior to June 30th, 2025.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Water, Dennis Morton, regarding the need for funds due to a shortfall in the health insurance account. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $15,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings account to the Water Enterprise Fund Health Insurance HMO account, supporting documents provided in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2025 deadline. I hereby request your honorable body to consider this matter prior to June 30th, 2025.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Parks and Forestry, Derek Corsi, regarding the anticipated award of a grant from Massachusetts Office of Business Development. The City of Attleboro's Capron Park Zoo has the potential to receive up to $112,000 in state funds to be used to reimburse funds expended this year to help support the day-to-day operations and visitor experience at Capron Park Zoo. Also, this grant does not require any matching funds. The contract states that all funding should be spent or committed by June 30th, 2025. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body approve expending of such funds and any future grant amendments supporting documents provided in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2025. Deadline, I hereby request your honorable body to consider this matter prior to June 30th, 2025.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Administration, Mason Lord, concerning much-needed parking lot paving projects planned for this summer and early fall at Thatcher, Hyman Fine, and Studley Elementary Schools. In fiscal year 2022, $415,000 was allocated in Capital Project Fund 3428 for this work. Since that time, the total anticipated cost of these three projects has increased and now totals $650,000, exceeding the fiscal year 2022 estimates by $235,000. Please note that if available free cash is not set aside before the end of fiscal year 25, it is likely that these urgent and priority one items in the CIP will have to wait an additional year and be subject to further cost escalation. Accordingly, I respectfully request that your honorable body appropriate $235,000 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to fund 3428 APS parking. Further, in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 25 deadline, I respectfully request that this matter be considered before June 30th, 2025.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Public Works, Michael Tyler, regarding the need to pay a fiscal year 23 invoice to the City of Attleboro Police in the amount of $440. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $440 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer account into account Public Works previous year's bills, supporting documents provided in order to be able to process this request for the end of fiscal year 2025 deadline. I hereby request your honorable body to consider this matter prior to June 30th, 2025.
Public Works, please.
Sincerely, Kathleen D. Simone, Mayor.
Thank you. So next week, we're going to have committee meetings first, focusing on those items that need to come out by June 30th. Then we'll have a special meeting to vote those out, and then anyone after that that needs to have a committee meeting for anything that can't wait until January can do it at that time. But we want to make sure that we get these things, what did I say? January. Yeah. Well, we don't want them wait until January either. That's how we kick things down the road. So July is obviously what I meant to say. So we'll take care of that next week. All right? And there's no clerk's communication this week.
Correct.
All right, so we will now go into finance reports. As always, we'll start with Mr. Cobus, who doesn't have a lot tonight, right?
Yeah.
Like 1 or 2 items? Sure. Council Cobus.
Thank you, President Delicio. All right. Where do I start? From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to appropriate $1,374,020 from account undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to fund 3523 vehicle equipment for the purchase and equipment of fiscal year 26 capital improvement program items, including 3 DPW 6 to 8 yard dump trucks, a DPW sweeper, a fire command vehicle, 2 police motorcycles, a parks and forestry vehicle, and an animal control vehicle.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We talked about this last week. The one question that came up that I was able to just get an answer to was regarding the cost for renting the sweeper vehicle, and that costs about $450 an hour to rent. And generally speaking, we use the sweeper year round, and it's much more beneficial for us to purchase this and purchase our own and use that year round, and then right after the winter and after the snow season, if we need, we can augment that with a rental sweeper if we need. But it's in the long run, it's more beneficial to purchase our own.
Additional questions or comments?
One more thing is, if anybody remembers from a few years ago, the Franken sweeper that was, I'd asked about that. That is no longer in use, and it's failed inspection, so that is no longer in use.
Very good. All right, this will be a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to appropriate $2,001,653.42 from account undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to account citywide contribution to stabilization, and to further appropriate $578,318.87 from account undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to account citywide contribution to special education.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
This $2 million is the second year we've done $2 million to the stabilization fund, and it's helping to maintain our bond rating.
Very good. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to approve the request of the mayor that $15,000 of authorized unissued debt from the February 7th, 2023 authorization for the acquisition of the front-end loader for the water department be rescinded as the project is completed and no further debt should be issued from this authorization.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
There are a few of these, and this is from the financial department, from the auditor, cleaning up some debt authorization, and these are for all of these, the same comment applies. These are for completed projects, and this is just rescinding that debt authorization.
That hasn't been used, correct? You haven't
Correct, it
used-
has not been used.
Great. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to approve the request of the mayor that $93,000 of the debt authorized in February 2021 for the wastewater skater project be rescinded. Additionally, to transfer the unused portion of the council vote number 3 from April 18th, 2023 in the amount of $17,250 from fund wastewater SCADA other financing uses to account wastewater enterprise fund other financing sources, as these funds originated as a transfer.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Project's complete.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to transfer the unused portion of $111,835.25 from fund sand filter improvements, other financing uses to account wastewater enterprise fund, other financing sources.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
So this one, it wasn't authorized debt, but this project is complete and we used ARPA money to fund a large portion of it.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to approve the request of the mayor that $360,180.74 of the debt authorized in February 2020 for the purpose of permitting, bidding, construction, oversight, and construction costs associated with the remodeling, reconstruction, and making extraordinary repairs to the roofs of both the Brennan and Wamsutta middle schools, and further amended on December 15th, 2020 to include the removal and replacement of gymnasium floors and environmental hygienist monitoring at Hyman Fine and Hill Roberts Elementary Schools be rescinded.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Project's complete.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to approve the request of the mayor that $1,727,964.79 of the debt authorized on June 2020 for the purpose of design permitting, bid services, construction, oversight services, and construction associated with the remodeling, reconstruction, and extraordinary repairs to the roof, HVAC system, window repairs, and elevator improvements to the Attleboro Public Library be rescinded as the project is complete and all invoices have been paid.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Project's complete.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, and I intentionally skipped the previous one. So from the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move under the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as amended, to approve the expenditure limits for the following revolving funds outlined under Chapter 20 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro for fiscal year 2026.
We can waive those where you read them in committee last week.
Sure, these are the,
Sorry.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
no, these are the revolving funds.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to approve the solid waste fee of $358 for fiscal year 2026. This is a $33 increase from fiscal year 2025.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
Solid waste fee.
Do we have additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to approve the solid waste fee of $52.10 per unit to be credited to Fund 2604 Residential Special Waste Disposal for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
It's a solid waste fee, and I again would like to reiterate what I said last week and applaud the administration for the new solid waste contract that was negotiated.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, there'll be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer? Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, in order to fund the water enterprise budget for fiscal year 2026, a $1.29 increase from the fiscal year 2025 water rate is recommended. Therefore, I move to strike Section 16-11.12 of the revised ordinances in its entirety and replace it with the following. 16-11.12, for each meter set, there shall be a minimum charge of $42.40, 42.40, for each 3 months. This minimum charge shall cover 500 cubic feet of water used at each connection. In excess over 500 cubic feet shall be charged for at a rate of $8.48 per 100 cubic feet effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
It's the water rate.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Sawyer.
I do actually have a concern about both of these and the next one, raising the rates to our residents. It's a concern. I understand that there's a lot that's going on with what we need to pay for the plants that need to happen for, protecting our water and having safe, clean water. But I am really concerned about it for our residents in the city. It's a big concern of mine.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? What I will say, and this is my view as a city councilor, not the president, is I think we all share Councilor Sawyer's concern, but we were also all here last year when we talked about this is what it is. I think Mason and Deb did a really nice job really explaining where we're at, where we need to go. There's a lot of makeup that we need to do in order to move the city forward with the changes in the water delivery system, whether it's replacing the pipes, whether it's the plant that we need to save for. There's a lot coming down the pipe, and we owe it to future generations to make sure that we're doing what's fiscally prudent. And I think Councilor Tavares talked about it pretty well. It's, do we pay now, do we pay later? And I think if we pay later, we're probably going to be paying a lot more. We need to be able to allow families to budget. I don't love this, but this is one of those sour little pills as councilors we have to swallow. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delacy. I mean, of course, I'm concerned about, charging higher rates to people, but at the same time, I'm also concerned about, as you were stating, the future of our water quality, and if we don't do this, it's not going to happen, and I don't think it would be fair to the citizens to all of a sudden not do this now, and then 2-3 years down the road, we have to have a massive increase. People can't handle that. I've been in sales for a long time, and everybody's always told me I'd rather see a smaller increase each year versus nothing for 5 years and then get hit with a massive increase. So I don't think that would be fair to the residents.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Unfortunately, yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, in order to fund the wastewater enterprise fund budget for fiscal year 2026, a $1.18 increase from the fiscal year 2025 sewer rate is recommended. Therefore, I move to strike section 16-18.1 of the revised ordinances in its entirety and replace it with the following. 16-18.1, a charge is hereby established for the use of the city's sewer system. Such charge, except as otherwise provided in section 16-18.2 and 16-18.3 next below, shall be based on the amount of water supplied to any use of the city's water system as shown by the meter reading. The sewer use charge shall be for sewer users and based on 90% of the water used and shall be charged for at a rate of $12.90 per 100 cubic feet, with a minimum charge for each 3 months of $58.46 for the first 450 cubic feet. The sewer rates established hereunder to be effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
This, again, is an increase. This increase is 10% as opposed to 18% for the water, and that's because we have a longer lead time for the wastewater treatment plant that's planned for 2029. And similarly, I agree that it's good to prepare ahead of time and incrementally increase year over year and proactively plan.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Lavoy.
Thank you, President Delicio. Unfortunately, I'll support this, but I just wanted to reiterate my comments from last week about, simplifying and really breaking down to the ratepayers what we're putting money aside for, what that study yielded, and, really just the plan moving forward so that they don't just see a heightened bill and attribute it to a water loss, so that they, see what strides we're making here for future years. So that concludes my comments.
I never see anything wrong with transparency. All right. Additional questions, Council Sawyer?
I just wanted to continue my comments of concern for raising rates on residents. Thank you.
Was there any?
It was just a continued concern of raising the rates
Okay.
for the ratepayers.
All right, thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, begin with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes,
10 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, in order to fund the wastewater industrial pretreatment program costs in the wastewater enterprise budget for fiscal year 2026, a 60-cent increase from the fiscal year 2025 industrial pretreatment surcharge is recommended. Therefore, I move to strike section 16-18.6 of the revised ordinances in its entirety and replace it with the following. 16-18.6, an industrial user which is required as a condition of its industrial waste permit to pre-treat its sewage shall pay a surcharge at the rate of $2.08 per 100 cubic feet. The surcharge shall be in addition to the charge established in section 16-18.1 above. Billing
In
and
accordance with. Oh, I'm sorry.
Council Foe, if we could just allow the reading, if there's
Yes,
any
I'm sorry.
sort of
billing,
mistake, we can point of order and we can correct it, friendly amendment afterwards. Continue, Mr. Cobus.
thank you. Billing and payment of the surcharge shall be in accordance with section 16-18.4. The money received from said surcharge shall be applied to the payment of costs associated with the administration of the pretreatment program requirements by the city, including purchasing and maintenance of equipment and utilization of contract services where deemed necessary by the superintendent. The surcharge established hereunder to be effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
This is the industrial pretreatment program.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to transfer $928,605 from Fund Water Enterprise Fund to the General Government Fund to fund the indirect cost for fiscal year 2026. The dollar amount presented is from the fiscal year 2026 budget book, and to further transfer $797,706 from Fund 600 Water Enterprise Fund to the General Government Fund to provide funding for the indirect costs for fiscal year 2026 budget. The dollar amount presented is from the fiscal year 2026 budget book.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
So the indirect costs.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Council Fowa.
It is from Fund 6,000, not 600.
Thank you. It's a lot of reading Mr. Cobus has to do.
It is indeed.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Delicio?
Thank you. It's been a long night. Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to transfer $28,155.58 from AHS Construction Other Financing Uses to General Fund Other Financing Sources, and to further transfer the funds from General Fund Other Financing Sources to General Fund Reserve for Premium Debt Exclusion Payment.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
We do this every year. It's a debt exclusion payment, or the premium.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Council Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to approve a 2% increase in the city's compensation plan for fiscal year 2026 in accordance with Section 13-4 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
It's a 2% increase in accordance with the compensation plan we approved earlier.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you, motion passes.
And from the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to approve the City of Attleboro's general government annual budget for fiscal year 2026 with a total of $193,118,408.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
It's the general budget, and I'd like to applaud the administration for presenting a balanced budget, and we have a lot of comments with the budget message, and we'll get into those there.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? I, again, speak on behalf of myself as a councilor, instead of playing the musical chairs with giving up the seat and everything else. I too want to thank the administration, the mayor, Deb, Mason, Todd, yourself, for the job that you've done. The budget every year, it's the most important thing we do. And I think that from your analysis of the budget to the budget book to the meetings that we had, I think we all had an opportunity to really flush out our concerns, and there were ample concerns. And it's getting harder and harder in this day and age. We have many communities around us and throughout the Commonwealth that have had to endure overrides, many of them unsuccessful. So to be able to present a balanced budget, Mayor was in the back of the room, kudos. I know it was a gargantuan effort. I think that we have to keep the budget process going all year round. I think we have to make sure that we're following up on this stuff so there aren't so many surprises come this time next year. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares? President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
And for this one, I do need to read the numbers in because we did not read them in committee last week. So from the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to approve the proposed water and wastewater enterprise budget for fiscal year 2026. Water Enterprise Fund, personal services, $4,511,784. Purchase of services, $1,114,266. Supplies, $2,262,100. $2,262,100. Intergovernmental, $170,900. Other charges and expenses, $1,541,648. Capital outlay, $250,000. Debt service, $2,292,281, for a total wastewater enterprise fund budget of $12,142,979. $12,142,979. And then on the water side, water enterprise fund, personal services, $3,495,477. Purchase of services, $1,999,155. Supplies, $973,800. Intergovernmental, $227,325. Other charges and expenses, $1,583,150. Debt service, $3,041,329, for a total water enterprise fund budget of $11,320,236.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
This is the budget for water and wastewater.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Next, I move to approve the following fiscal year 26 budget message as follows.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order. Any comments?
We read this last week, and there were a couple amendments that I agreed to make, and so I'd like to make those amendments now. And I'm passing out a printed copy, and this was also emailed out earlier today through Virginia. So I'd like to insert a paragraph that reads rising healthcare costs within the areas for continued focus and recommendation, that reads as follows. Rising healthcare costs. We recognize that healthcare costs, particularly related to insurance premiums and prescription drugs, continue to rise at a pace far exceeding our municipal revenue growth, posing a significant fiscal challenge across our community and the Commonwealth in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, per person health expenditures increased 8.6% from 2022 to 2023, more than double the state's 3.6% cost growth benchmark, while municipal health insurance premiums have risen by as much as 17.6% heading into fiscal year 2026. Although the administration has done well to maintain a balanced budget in light of these pressures, our long-term ability to observe such increases fundamentally constrained by Proposition 2.5. This structural imbalance, where costs outpace sustainable revenue, erodes our capacity to maintain core services and exacerbates the city's structural deficit. Therefore, we strongly encourage the administration, with the municipal council support, to proactively engage with our state delegation and relevant agencies to advocate for broader systemic reforms and long-term solutions to relieve this growing burden on municipal budgets. And the next change is, within the revenues.
Where it's an amendment and it's a change to what was read, I think we should get a second, have
Second.
discussion.
Second.
I just figured he would move on to the next.
It should be one amendment at a time.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's in order, seconded initially by Vice President Dolan. Todd, any comments?
This is largely based on what we heard from, with the school discussion and the rising healthcare costs. And I believe President Delicio, you had asked for something along these lines to be added. So this is what we came up with, what I came up with. Yeah, hopefully it makes sense.
Appreciate it. Additional questions, comments, concerns? All right, that being said, this will be a voice vote on the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And then the second amendment is to change the item that for grant volatility and to change that paragraph that's to read as follows. Grant volatility. We must plan for unpredictable state and federal funding and potential instability in programs like SHINE, which threaten service continuity for vulnerable residents. While maintaining healthy reserves remains crucial to buffer against this instability, we also recommend leveraging the trend across Massachusetts toward inter-municipal collaborations. Surrounding towns already participate in regional infrastructure efforts such as GATRA and the Greater Attleboro Regional Emergency Planning Committee. By exploring shared service agreements, whether for public health, transit, or other municipal functions, we can achieve economies of scale, share the cost of grant administration, and build resilience against funding disruptions.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
And this was based on a comment from Councilor Boa to try to share sort of some of these grant things with our surrounding communities.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none, this will be a voice vote on the grant volatility amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll now go to the budget message as, is there another one, Todd?
That's it.
Okay, we'll now go back to the budget message as amended. Let's see, any additional, Councilor Holmes?
Thank you. So, thank you for doing this, Councilor Cox, I really appreciate it. I was just disappointed that the position for the budget director to have a second didn't get included, and then it wasn't included that we were really impressed with the elections department and their ability to kind of use technology to reduce their budget. But I think we discussed it and we were able to communicate that directly to the department head, so, but thank you for doing this.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a vote on the budget message as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Councilor Coates.
Turn a couple pages here, sorry. All right. From the docket of June 3rd, 2025, I move to approve the following resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a tax increment exemption agreement between the city and 41 South Main Street LLC.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
I have some comments. So we heard from the Economic Development Director, and I'd just like to reiterate a couple things that he mentioned. So first of all, voting yes on this will bring in roughly $2.5 million of state funding for the HDIP. And so that state funding doesn't happen without the tie. It's a requirement for HDIP that the tie exists. And it will also bring in roughly $1 million in new tax revenue with over 16 years. If you add it up, it's $800,000 for the first 15 years total new tax revenue. But then if you add it's 840 or whatever. But if you add in the difference for over 16 years, it's $1 million in new tax revenue over 16 years. So if you look at the new tax revenue and what a yes vote means here is we get $2.5 million invested in downtown, of state money invested in downtown that otherwise, that the state's already budgeted for, that otherwise would go to another gateway city. In the long term, we get $1 million of additional tax revenue. And we get 45 new market rate units. And those units in a dense apartment building cost the city less. And per capita, like that's going to cost the city less on government services, less on their single bedroom or studio apartments for the most part. So they're less likely to have kids at schools. And one of the things that I always talk about is I have 3 school-age children, and it costs roughly $8,000 per student for public schools. And so, for my single-family house, if I'm paying $7,000 in annual property taxes and costing the city $21,000 just in school education costs, the city's losing money. So these dense apartment buildings are incredibly efficient for city services, and it's going to bring in money to the city that otherwise wouldn't be there. So I do think this is incredibly valuable for us and wouldn't happen otherwise. And I've heard people say that, like, oh, what if they just sell this and walk away and take a profit? And I think that's like, if they're able to sell this, doesn't that mean that there's a profitable building in downtown Attleboro? Isn't that a positive thing, that we have a valuable building downtown and somebody sees value in this? I don't understand why people scoff at that and see that this is negative. And I hear time and time again that Attleboro is not pro-business, and it's challenging to do business in Attleboro. And this is a company that was successful with their first building that they built, and they're looking to do it again and succeed again. And I think we should support that. And that concludes my comments.
Vice President Dolan, Councilor Holmes, and then Mr. Lavoy.
So I agree with everything that Councilor Kovas said, and I believe, and my first concern I want to state on the record is that we didn't have a public hearing for this, and then people came to the podium and spoke on something. They're not supposed to speak on something that's in front of the council on the agenda for this evening. So it concerns me that there may have been misinformation put out to the public and to us during some of those statements. So again, I agree with everything that Councilor Kovas said, and and I look at this as an investment. So yes, they were successful with Briggs. Do we want to give tax breaks to everybody? No, we don't. But it's an investment in the city, which aligns with our revitalization effort, and will provide more foot traffic, which will in turn, it's like the chicken and an egg, the businesses and the apartments and the people that are there. I believe that the Briggs Hotel is completely already full, waiting for it to be completed. And to leave this taxes on the table, I think, is crazy. And And, collecting $2,300 versus, approximately $50,000 is huge. And we talked about our concerns about raising the water rates and the wastewater rates. We don't want to do that. We're all residents as well. But when we have less of a commercial base to help us pay those taxes in the levy, then where does it fall? It falls on the residents. So everything that we want to do when we have less of a commercial base for taxes, that's where it falls, is on the residents. So yeah, I believe that Briggs is fully leased as well. And, it concerns me again when I go back to people at the podium, we didn't hear from our assessor, our city assessor at the podium. So that concerns me a little bit. And our whole EDIB board, which is the assessor, the treasurer, the mayor, the economic development director, all people that we, have to have a certain level of trust in to do what's right for the city, and, the planner as well. So I feel that, in my opinion, it would be foolish to leave this tax money on the table. And, we forget to mention that come year 16, it's full boat taxes, and no matter what the value is assessed at that point. So the higher it's assessed, the more taxes we're going to collect. So I will absolutely support this.
Councilor Holmes.
I guess I have a different view of success, because the Briggs Hotel, they came back for a tax break, we gave it to them. They came back again for a tax break, we gave it to them. Now they're coming back with that second tax rate for this third tax break. This is a second project, this is the third time they've asked for a tax break. The article was very confusing in the paper. They've done 2 projects, this is the second project. They went to the economic development director to talk about something else, and the economic development director said, yeah, why don't you go for another tie with a new project? I'm sorry, 41 apartments in downtown Attleboro with 23 parking spaces is not desirable for Attleboro. I don't know if anybody's listening to the residents, but they're not wanting it. I don't want it. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good plan. Each apartment should have its own parking space. And if you were to ask downtown businesses if they'd rather have parking there or have more apartments, I'm sure they'd say parking. Parking is an issue. And you just heard that they're going to do another study about parking in downtown, but we're going to build more apartments before we even have this study done. Parking is an issue. Even the study from 2022 stated that. This is not what Attleboro needs right now. I'm a no on this. We can hold off. We can look into some of the other projects that need to happen here. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Mr. Lavoy.
Thank you, President Delicio. I do agree that Attleboro is certainly business friendly. What I don't think Attleboro is pro handouts, and that's what this is. This is a handout. We got strong-armed once before, and if we get strong-armed again, then clearly we're just not good at business, because we're just allowing this single developer to walk all over us and to get tax breaks while we have 5 to 7 buildings coming online in the near future, thanks to the ARA. So I don't know what the big rush is to get 40 units downtown that the local businesses don't want. But if they don't build this and they can sell it, keep it as parking, and adequately have parking for the building they just put up. But to say the tax dollars are going to leave, they're going to go to their pockets anyway. They're not going to come to the city. And that concludes my comments.
Councilor Tavares and Councilor Corbis.
So I completely disagree with Councilor Lavoie's point. This is not a handout. This is not permanent. This is a 15-year negotiation with the developer, and this is meant to stimulate economic development in our city. We can't complain about housing costs if we're not willing to do anything about it. And this presents an opportunity to increase inventory in the downtown, where we can most efficiently service infrastructure and all sorts of other needs for our growing population. So I think this is incredibly important. So, if we're going to complain about, builders putting in subdivisions and places that we don't want in the city, but we're also not willing to allow dense development in areas that are meant for it in downtown, then how else are we supposed to grow as a city? I don't understand that argument. Economics is simple. I mean, high demand with low supply drives up prices, and this is what we're seeing in the housing industry throughout the country. This is not an issue just here in Attleboro, in Massachusetts, or regionally. This is an issue across the country. And so this is a way for us to alleviate it. Again, I think it's a simple formula. We increase supply, and we're going to help stabilize those costs, at least in Attleboro. So I don't understand those arguments. I think we do need to continue to increase our tax base. That's been said by numerous councilors here over the years, and I've researched this particular project, and I'm yet to see any evidence that this will create a net economic burden to the city. I don't see it. In fact, in increasing the tax base, we're driving more residences into our downtown to support our business community, and I think that's the part that we're missing. I think it's easy to miss the forest through the trees. This is not about just this project. This is about increasing the supply to further increase the ability for our businesses to be sustainable here in downtown. How many times have we seen businesses come into downtown and a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, they're gone? We need to provide the backbone for them to be sustainable over time. It's incredibly important. And on the issue of parking, I can understand the concerns there. But parking, as has been said by our planning director over the years as well, it's regulated by the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals. And so the developer for this project is subject to the same rules that any other developer is for any project. So I'm not sure why that's a consideration for what's before us here as a council. And from a policy standpoint, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and we have to. We have to explore ways to increase parking over time, but we can't just stop development because that's a challenge. Of course it's going to be a challenge. It's a challenge for any growing city. And so as we continue to grow, I think we have to expand our horizons and think about how we plan long-term, but we can't stop development now or use it as a roadblock or an obstacle from thinking long-term. I love the recapture idea that former councilor brought up here earlier this evening, former councilor Conti. But again, when you look at the numbers, I think it's such a minuscule number long term over the 15 years that we're giving up for the benefit of that $2.5 million today in HDIP tax credits, plus the tax money that we're actually going to receive from this development project starting in year one. And so the last point that I'll make is, and this is going back to the tax base, this isn't necessarily an argument about whether we bring in this tax money or not. Obviously, it's bringing in tax money as a parking lot now, but what is the value of the underlying real estate there? We've got an opportunity to receive higher tax dollars based on the improved real estate by partnering with this builder essentially through this tie agreement. And this is also another way to increase our commercial tax base. And this is directly related to the conversation we have every year in this council to talk about shifting that tax rate off of residences. So if we're not increasing the tax rate or the tax base on our commercial side, on the business side, this is a burden that the residents are going to take on. Again, I think we're thinking way too small when we look at just these obstacles or challenges. And I'll admit, yes, they are challenges. We have to work through them and think through them. But at the end of the day, we must think much more long-term. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Kovas, Councilor Angelo, Councilor Holmes.
Thank you, and I agree with everything Councilor Tavares said incredibly well. And one of the pieces that I was planning to talk about was that this developer is playing by the rules. This isn't a handout. This is in order to receive that HDIP money, the $2.5 million, they need this tie. And so like they're playing by the rules. This is business, and they are negotiating with the city in order to utilize that money. And this is what other communities, other gateway cities are doing. And so they're playing by the rules. And and one of the things that Councilor Tavares you brought up and mentioned is this will also reduce costs for residents in general. And so like you talk about expanding the tax base, but by doing that, it sort of distributes the cost for everybody. We do have a lot of things coming on, whether it's the water treatment plant, the wastewater plant, all of these things. So by increasing our tax rolls, that's going to lower costs in general. But one of the other things that is interesting about this, and I've heard talk about, hey, this doesn't include any low-income housing. And one of the things that I saw was a study that talked about, there was a study that talked about for every 100 market rate units built, rents for nearby lower income area, for lower income houses or apartments decreased by 5 to 7%. So by increasing the stock with 100 market rate apartments, lower income apartments, their rents over time decreased by 5 to 7%. So this does sort of save people money overall. I mean, it's not a lot, but it is important. It is important that we look at the big picture, and it does align with sort of the master plan for Attleboro in developing sort of these dense buildings in downtown. So I think it makes sense.
Councilor Angelo?
Thank you, President Delizio. Great points. Appreciate the points you guys are making. I understand both sides. I've been a business owner for 30 plus years, and I can tell you this: if this was my piece of property, I've heard people saying, "Well, it's going to remain a parking lot." I don't think it is. It's not going to remain a parking lot. It's going to remain an empty lot. That's what it is. These guys are not going to come in and say, "Okay, I can't proceed with this. Okay, so now everybody just park there." No, there's going to be chain links up there. I guarantee it. I can't swear by it, but if I own that, there would be nobody going on there. And I like what you said, Council Tavares, Council Kobus, about I honestly believe that it will reduce the rates going forward. It's supply and demand. You got more supply, it's going to make it that much easier. Competitive bids, it's going to make a difference. And are we going to have 3,500 a year, or are we going to have 35,000 a year? The city, we need help. We need help to get rates paid, and if we continue to say no to businesses, and to me, okay in this, I think it's business friendly. I think it's not business friendly if we say no to it. I get it. Yeah, I'd love to have a deli in there. I'd love to have a bakery in there, but we can't just tell people, hey, you have to put a business in there. That's not possible. So what's going to happen if this doesn't happen? We got a place down in the Attleboro Industrial Park that's been sitting there vacant for, God knows, 15, 20 years that we're getting no taxes on. Things will follow. You bring enough people to downtown, things will follow, and then maybe someone else will come in and say, I want a deli, I want a bakery, or I want another restaurant or something or other. I have a million things I could talk about here, but I think I've said enough, and I think the other councils have said enough, and I know others are going to say some more, so I'll hold my comments for the moment, but I would not be opposed to, at some point, if we needed to, look again at the parking and wait to see if they actually are going to get securing more parking. I would be okay with holding it if that was the case as well, too. There are negotiations working on that. It could be a deal breaker. I did speak to some other residents on that, hey, my household, I have 3 of my vehicles just for myself because I have 2 trucks, I have a car, and actually I have a Mustang that's being worked on. But I've talked to other people that don't drive and asked them why, and they said, I don't go enough outside of the city, so it's a waste of money for me to go and get a car and insurance. I would just rather Uber, and that seems to be the way a lot of people are going. 2 weeks ago, I wasn't thinking that until I started saying, okay, what are people thinking? So I started asking people those questions. I was like I do at the gym a lot, I see a lot of people there, but also I saw some people on the outside, and I was just asking residents that I would see at the grocery store, what do you think? And a lot of people kept saying to me, yeah, no, it's not worth me getting insurance. Insurance is too high. Everything is too high for a car right now, so I'm okay with just Ubering. That's enough of my comments.
Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. So you mentioned that they're negotiating with the city. Well, with all due respect, I don't think that the administration's understanding the concerns of parking or hearing the concerns that we have. Businesses down there were open to buying that and keeping it as a parking lot because they know that there's an issue with parking. The study from 2022 showed that 90% of the spaces are filled at certain times. So if you're coming from South Attleboro and you want to go to eat in downtown Attleboro and you drive by and you don't see a parking space, you're going to keep driving to the next location. Houses don't necessarily bring that unless you can park there. And I'm sorry, everybody owns a car. I don't see it as trending down. And now we're just letting these developers get away with having less spaces. So we're just, with giving them a break. We can still go back to the table, and I do like what Councilor Conti said about potentially holding off on this. I think that we're rushing this. I don't think that there's any reason to rush this. The Economic Development Director came down here and said they came to him to talk about something else, and then all of a sudden this got brought up. And then within 2 weeks it's before us, and now we're voting on it. This is a big step for the city. I think we need to slow down and really understand what this is going to do and what this is going to mean. That's how I feel about this. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Councilor Lavoy?
Thank you, President Delicio. I agree. I think it's very rushed. And, you know, if supposedly it's going to sit vacant, if we turn this down, there's no saying they don't come before us again for another request in a year. So I don't know what the need now is when we have studies we're trying to pay for to figure out parking or this, that, or the other, accessibility downtown. You know, we're still trying to upgrade sidewalks downtown. We have the Disability Commission puts on their event every year to highlight issues that we have right downtown. But I thought it was important when I was thinking of why I don't support this myself, and then I listened to the residents, and they don't support it, and I'm a voice for them, so that was already 2/3 of my rationale. Then I got to the third step where I asked the businesses downtown, which is likely why Mr. Lank's here tonight. And I didn't come across any businesses downtown that do support it. They all told me they don't support it. My parking's gonna be taken up. I can't park when I get here as it is. My employees can't park. The very business that was in the packet we received on this about how great it would be for them does not support this. They tried to buy the parking lot years ago. So I just think we're in this weird point where we're trying to say, well, it's great for the people downtown. Well, they don't support it. So if we're not going to be a voice for them, then I don't know what we're doing when we're trying to promote them and say how good it's going to be for them. They don't agree. And I think there's a disconnect there. I don't know where the disconnect is. And I don't know where the rent decrease comes from because, again, I lived at 1 Wall Street. Whenever a building nearby went up or anything was coming online or talks of anything, that didn't change any rent. Rent never went down. It goes up every month. And I look back now and I go on my phone. It goes up every month from what I paid then. So I don't know where the decrease is happening with this units coming online. We have a ton of them we're putting in everywhere, but they're all just going up because people will pay. If we don't have market rate, they're going to keep paying. So there's not some decrease when there's going to always be a demand. That's why they're building these buildings for millions of dollars. The demand is there. They'll fill them. They're not going to build them if they don't think they'll fill them. And they're going to get the money they want to get, and they will get the money they want to get. And that's just the bottom line.
Councilor Reynolds, then Vice President Dolan.
I'm just going to say, go along with, I agree with what both sides are saying. I understand it. I have never been a proponent of the tie, so I'm a definite no vote. I think, you know, it is a tax break, and it's great for them. It is great for them, and down the road, you know, they'll sell it, and they will make their money. And I absolutely love Rick Conti's comments, and I don't see why you couldn't put a lien on. But the other thing is, you know, we don't give tax breaks to people building a house for themselves. We might give it to a developer like this, but we're not giving it to young people that are trying to build a house. There's not really big tax breaks for anybody, whether it's ourselves or people that come to rent in the city or buy in the city when they try to pay their bills. There's not really, it's maybe some minute amount of money for a senior, but this is a big thing. And yes, maybe you will make money, you know, in the long run. But my feeling is that if you're going to build in the city or build anywhere, you ought to have the money, like everybody else has to have it if they're trying to build something. So I'm just a definite no.
Thank you, Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. So I understand the parking discussion, but that's not what we're voting on. The parking is up to the ZBA, like Councilor, excuse me, Tavares said. Also, when you talk about the businesses downtown, they don't support it. Nobody came here to speak, and I'd like to know who they is. Like, you went to every single business downtown and spoke to them? I find that highly unlikely. And yes, maybe there were other bidders for this piece of property, but they didn't win the bid. So that's business. I don't know who else bid on it, what they bid on it. I know the city wasn't involved in any of the bidding as far as us bidding on it ourselves. But, and as far as the parking study did say we had some parking issues, but it also said we had net spaces. That's exactly why we built all those signs and put up all those signs to show everybody, there's a parking lot here, there's a parking lot here, because people like me who grew up here, we used to pull in front of, the store and just walking in, but we've grown. That's not how it works anymore. I go to Federal Hill all the time. Sometimes I have to park 2-3 streets over, but I'm going. I'm going to that restaurant. I'm going to get my sauce. You know what I mean? So that's what people, sometimes you have to walk. And whether it's 10 feet, 20 feet, 2 streets over, people will do that for a business that they want to go to. And again, and you talk about paying for studies for parking lots, we're trying to make it more convenient for people. And so what could pay for those studies? I don't know, more tax base. So again, parking is not on the ballot right now. That's up to the ZBA to do. And as of right now, I am absolutely in favor of this. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Lavoy with rebuttal, and then we'll go to Councilor Sawyer.
Thank you, President Delicio. Just first off, on the half that they will walk to the places they want to go, a counselor across from me came out with a study, and that study said the opposite. But to answer your question, actually, a matter of fact, May 28th at 9:19 in the morning, I reached out to the first of 7 businesses downtown. And I can provide all the time logs you'd like for all the businesses, but if you didn't reach out to them, that's not my prerogative. I'm just telling you what the 7 I reached out to said. And if I reached out to 9, 2 didn't answer, 7 did. So I can only tell you what they said to me. Again, if you don't reach out, that's not on me. So I reached out to them. You could do the same. They didn't support it. And I don't think Mr. Link would be here tonight if they did support it. Thank you.
Councilor Sawyer, then we'll return to Vice President Dolan.
I wanted to just kind of bring up again the state funding from the HDIP. I wanted to kind of understand a little bit about where that money from the state is going to. Is that coming to the city? Is it going to that developer that needs the tie in order to have it? I don't, anywhere that can answer that would be.
Councilor Cobus.
So the HDIP money comes from the state. It's bonded for, and it goes to the developer after construction is completed in tax rebates but it's up to $2.5 million in state aid for construction costs. It's a one-time payment to incentivize development in these gateway cities. So that money is already funded from the state and will go to, if not Attleboro, Lowell or Salem or one of these other gateway communities. But in order for a developer to apply for this HDIP money, they have to have, the city has to have, quote unquote, skin in the game. They have to have a tie. It's a requirement for an HDIP. And in this particular case, the pro forma has a 4 to 5% profit margin for their business plan. So it's not like the developer is expecting to make a ton of money. And I believe the economic development director said that was a fairly low profit margin when normally they expect to make roughly 10% on something like this. So this isn't a huge profit. But the fact that we're getting $2.5 million of state funding invested into downtown is significant, I think. Does that make sense?
Just to be clear, it's not going into downtown per se, it's going into one project. I think
Going into
it's a really important, and I understand the bigger,
a building that will remain on the tax
but it's not
rolls.
going down to downtown, it's going into a project. So I just want to be clear on that. Vice
Fair
President Dolan?
And
Councilor Fowa.
And so, just in response, when you say a counselor study, it wasn't a study, it was a poll on Facebook. And if I recall correctly, we legislate based on polls on Facebook. That concludes my comments.
Councilor Fowa.
I agree with Councilor Tavares. I think commercial development downtown in Attleboro is vital to our growth. And anything that promotes it, it seems to me, is to be commended and is to be supported. I also think, Councilor, former Counselor Conti's idea is a good one. And even though 15 years from now, $1 million is not going to be worth $1 million, it would give residents of Attleboro a sense that we are getting back what we have forgiven up front. So prospectively, I think that's a good idea. We have a proposal now in front of us. I don't think we can add that to this proposal, but I think prospectively, it is a good idea. We should look at it and not disregard it because the value of money will decrease over time. So I am in favor of this proposal.
Councilor Holmes.
Yes, I love that. The most common way people give up power is thinking that they don't have any. And in this situation, I keep saying we can negotiate with them. And I keep hearing, well, no, we don't deal with parking, the ZBA does. Oh, we don't deal with telling them that they need, that we would like to have something like this there. Why not? Why can't we do what Councilor Conti saying? Yes, we would be the first community to do that, and maybe we would set a trend. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. They presented something to us, and we're just supposed to say, yep, sounds good. No, we're supposed to say, this is more what we're looking for. This is really what that area needs. We know what the area needs. We're hearing from the residents what the area needs. And in terms of, and that concludes my comment. So I don't know how we could get it to that point, but I would like to see if we could maybe have it go back to committee, and I don't know what the process is to do that, but I'm open to doing that and seeing if this is some things that can be worked out. And that concludes my comments.
Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Lucio. I'm certainly okay with it going back to committee as well. I know for them to make this happen is going to be tight, and if anybody else comes in here to put something there, they're going to probably want to do the same thing as well too. What I did find out is the tax incentives were basically based on what they had before, but maybe there's a little bit of room to renegotiate that a little bit, maybe to get an extra %. I'm not sure. It might not still work, and they might just say, no, it's too tight, because it is, by looking at it, it is very tight. So it might be just a no-go, but again, we got the parking, we have a lot of other questions, and I'm more than happy to send this back to committee and maybe work on getting more information. I'm not opposed.
Do we have anything new to add to the conversation? Okay, Councilor.
Thank you. I don't believe it can go back to committee, but my thought is if we reject it tonight, then they can resend it in, and we can do these in committee properly. In the pitch, Chris talked about how these people want to manage this property long-term. So if they want to manage it long-term, it sounds like they wouldn't be opposed to what former Councilor Conti proposed. So I would support that measure, and I would consider supporting it if it came back in that way. But for right now, as is, I can't.
Councilor Waterman.
I tried to come here keeping an open mind, and usually I make my decisions before I get here. I still haven't made my decision, so that is one reason why I would like to have it go back to committee. But for me, the most important concern was the parking. And being as I'm so connected to the senior center, I figure that's the first place that a lot of people are going to go. So I really appreciate what Chris McDermott was saying about going and working with the state on parking spots up at the train station. But we need to know whether that's a reality or just talk.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Fuller.
President DeLucio, can you tell us what alternatives we have at this juncture?
We can do that at the end of the discussion. I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to get their piece in. Thank you. Councilor Sawyer.
I wondered if we are not discounting small businesses by giving this bigger business this tax break. I mean, are smaller businesses going to be able to get any such of a tax break or ask for a tax break in order to bring in their business? You know, when we want to be a business-friendly city, if we're giving a bigger business the tax break and not smaller ones, I wonder if that's why it's harder to have businesses here in the city when their taxes or their buildings that they're renting are really high. That's just a comment I had. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Vice President Dolan, on this, I would like to give up the seat. As Council Reynolds mentioned, early on in my council career, I was very much against ties and TIFs. I think the economic landscape has changed so much that I think these are very helpful tools to have in the toolbox. I think in terms to Council Sawyer, I think in terms of the small businesses, it's so hard right now to get a small business to get off the ground. A lot of what small businesses are doing, you now have, you think about the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you now have, all of that at Market Basket or some of these other chains, there are small businesses we need, and I know that the financial teams worked really hard at this. By and large, I think this is a good project. I really do think it's a good project. And I was probably a solid yes up until about a week and a half ago, where I got a call from a couple residents who are struggling with parking. And they live in some of the new developments right downtown. One person is a nurse, works overnights. She's gotten ticket after ticket after ticket because there is no parking. She's got to play that game of moving your car around. You drive down on a Friday night or, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, it's hard to find parking right outside on South Main Street. The parking issue to me it's part of the project. It's part of what we're looking at and part and parcel with what it is that we're going. For me, it's hard to walk away from, the potential of more tax revenue, because we all know what we need to do. Now it's how do we get there? Is this the right project? I don't know. The parking really concerns me. And yes, I understand that it has to go to the ZBA. ZBA has the word there, but we're voting on a project here, on a tax increment exemption on a project, and we have to look at everything holistically. I do appreciate the comments that everyone here has made tonight. It's hard. It's hard because, we're talking about, oh no, people take the train. Ridership still isn't there. It's still not there. It took me 2.5 hours to get from Revere today. It takes me less time to get to Springfield or Pittsfield for work than it does to Boston or Revere. Not an exaggeration. Why? Because there's still people commuting to Boston. Mm-hmm. People are still driving. I've got 3 cars in my house. My son's, my wife's, my own. I think it's disingenuous if we sit here and we say, the ZBA will deal with parking, and we don't sit here and look at the impact it could have. It could really turn downtown into chaos. You've got to be careful with that. I think it's important. And do we need more parking? Yeah. Do we have parking where people walk to park? Yeah. But people aren't going to want to walk to their home, after a long day of work. I think that I love the idea of what Chris was talking about with the T, but what happens when the T needs those spots back, which could happen? It's a lot of unknowns. As far as the whole piece about going back to committee, it can't. What we could do is remove the second this evening, and Councilor Kobus, I think there's been enough question here that you could get some answers that maybe could quell some of the concerns about parking. I mean, I would hate to see a project like this die because of the parking, but if I'm being honest, that's where my lean is right now. Just because I think the impact of not having enough spaces could be impactful. So that concludes my comments. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none. I was going to ask, Todd, what are your thoughts? We do have the special meeting next week. We could tie this in to that as well, or?
I can try to get answers regarding parking and see if we can get answers on that. So I'm happy to vote it out next week.
Okay.
I withdraw my second.
Thank you. Councilor Kobus.
That concludes the business for the Finance Committee. I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Follow.
The IT and Infrastructure Committee has no business this evening. Call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor LeBoy.
The Elections Committee has no business this evening. We call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Reporting for the City Property and Claims Committee from the docket of June 17th, 2025. I move to transfer $13,462 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Council on Aging, HVAC to rent temporary air conditioning units.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I have none.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to accept the donation of a painted mural for the Capron Park Zoo valued at approximately $2,376.18 from the Olivia Knighton Foundation.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I do have one. I received a PowerPoint, which I just actually was able to open this evening. It's really great. It has the whole vision of what this painting is going to do for this particular wall, and it's beautiful. So I am going to send it to Virginia and have her distribute it to all of you because it's really a great presentation. And I just think this is a really great thing of value for this young woman that lost her life several years back. Some of you might remember. I actually forgot, but was reminded of it this evening back. They went on vacation. This group went on vacation, and she fell out of a moving boat. And up 11 kids, she was the only one that passed, I believe. So it was really kind of a sad story, and this is kind of for her because she liked the butterflies. So it's a nice gesture.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of June 3rd, 2025, I move to accept the generous donation to the city of 8 McCoy Stadium seats from the city of Pawtucket with an estimated value of $100 per seat for these donations to the city of Attleboro. And
Second.
Motion's in order. Any comments?
the only comments is that they are going to all the parks. They're being divided up amongst the parks in the city. I got the word. So I just wanted to let you know.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this too is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That is all the business City Property and Claims Committee has this evening, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much, Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. Reporting for the Public Works Committee from the docket of June 17, 2025. I move to appropriate $646,152.95 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to the following accounts for the fiscal year 25 snow deficit.
Second.
Thank you. We'll waive the reading as you read it last week. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus? President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17, 2025, I move to transfer $50,000 from account Water Enterprise Fund Reserve Fund for transfer to the following accounts to pay for services and supplies for the remainder of fiscal year 25.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17, 2025, I move to appropriate $1,271,900 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to fund 3575 roadway repairs for Lindsay Street pavement restoration project.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Excuse me, 10 yeas,
Yep.
0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to transfer $2,200 from account citywide reserve fund for transfer to the following. And $1,000 for animal control callback overtime, $1,200 for animal control holiday sick vacation overtime.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Okay, additional questions, comments, concerns? Roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to appropriate $31,556.91 from account wastewater enterprise fund retained earnings to account wastewater enterprise fund water meter supplies. After such time, the accounting department will work with the wastewater department to transfer the funds to the water enterprise fund to pay for 50% of the value of the meters from May 31st, 2024 through May 30th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus? President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17, 2025, I move to transfer $7,857.28 from account citywide reserve fund for transfer to account recreation previous year's bills to pay National Grid bills.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
Nope, discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I move to approve the petition from Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA, National Grid, and Verizon New England, requesting permission to install one Joe pole on Dunham Street, install a stub pole 5116-84 south of pole 5116, 30 plus or minus feet, and sidewalk anchor guide to support leaning pole 5116.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 10-0.
And that's all the business for the Public Works Committee, and call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee, from the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to transfer $7,000 from account fire dispatch overtime to account fire certification differential due to the numerous firefighters obtaining department-approved certifications after the fire department budget was approved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of June 17th, 2025, I move to transfer $48,000 to account fire overtime from the following: $24,000 from account fire uniforms and $24,000 from account fire tuition and books.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Just a few. There were some extra funds in these areas, and it had to get moved over to overtime to cover some individuals that were on leave.
Okay, very good. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business, and I'll call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. Reporting from Human Resource Strategy and Resource Committee, from the docket of June 17, 2025, I move to approve appointment of Benton Keene III to fill an expired term of the Board of Fire Commissioners, term to expire February 2027.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
On the docket of June 17, 2025, move to approve the appointment of Ann Berth Eugene to fill an expired term in the Youth Commission, term to expire February 2027.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, sir, it was discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
On the docket of June 17, 2025, move to approve the appointment of Destiny Searle to fill an expired term in the Youth Commission, term to expire February 2027.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, sir, it was discussed in committee.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion
On
passes.
the docket of June 17, 2025, move to approve the appointment of Anjali to fill an expired term on the Sustainability Commission, term to expire February 2028.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, sir, it was discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
For the docket of June 17, 2025, move to approve the appointment of Kevin Malone to fill an expired term on the Sustainability Commission, term to expire February 2028.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, sir, it was discussed in committee.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
On the docket of June 17, 2025, move to amend the Rules and Procedures, Article 7-1.7, Committee on Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services to the following by changing the name to Committee on Human Resources and Veterans.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Sir, discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? All those, this will be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of May 20, 2025, move to approve the appointment of Dennis Morton to fill a 3-year term on the Water Superintendent, said term to expire February 2028.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order.
Did we vote this out of committee?
We did. We voted out of committee. Michael didn't realize it was on the committee dockets last week. We actually voted it out a couple of weeks prior.
Okay, so that-
So, and Michael, thank you for your ownership of that. I sent an email as soon as you realized the overlook, so thank you.
You're welcome. So basically, we get Dennis, and Dennis was recommended, by the consulting firm that we hired, along with the administration that were in on the interviews. Dennis is bringing in a fresh perspective, a lot of experience from several different cities. He's got the managerial experience, and he's seen a lot of different things going on. He has vowed to work with Matt Crowdy to work along with him too, bring him along, and I think there'll be a very good partnership together.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
No.
Mr. Lavoy?
No.
Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
No.
Eight yeas, 3 nays.
Motion passes.
That's all for Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee. I call for meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Sawyer.
There's no business for zoning, land use, and sustainability committee tonight. We look forward to next committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Waterman.
Transportation and traffic has no business. We will meet the next appropriate time.
Councilor Tavares.
Ordinances, elections, and legislative matters do not have any business this evening. We call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Councilor Tavares.
The Special Committee for Tax Abatement Review also does not have any business this evening. We call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. City's classification has no new business, and we call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Councilor Fuller.
Special Committee on Rules and Procedures has no business this evening. We call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much. There is no old business. There's one piece of new business for which I'll recognize Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. I move to refer the following to the proper committee for study and recommendation to add a multi-way stop sign at Mulberry Street and Hazen Street per section 10-4.12 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Excuse me. I did speak to Chief Hagney regarding this before I submitted the business, and he does support this. This is in the area of Thatcher School, excuse me. And basically, every street over there is a four-way stop. So he did approve this business and said it really doesn't need to go to traffic study. If you consider maybe putting it in my committee, just up to you, obviously. So whatever you see fit. I'm just telling you what the chief said as far as approving it.
That's a lot to think about.
Will you let me know?
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. This will go to Public Works.
Lucky me.
That being said, just a reminder of the way next week's gonna work. It's gonna be committees, then we're gonna roll into a special meeting just to vote out anything that is pertinent, that needs to get voted out by the end of the year. That being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:24.